It just struck me this morning that because of his love for us, here he is. He breaks into a tiny little group of Christians this morning, meeting in a boys' brigade hall somewhere in Kilmarnock, and he brings his word to us. Wonderful. It really is. That was a word from the Lord this morning. The Lord said, it is good. You know what he was saying? He said, are you cast down? I want to remind you, you've been raised up. He said that. But he says, I spoke into darkness and brought life, and it was good. And it's that phrase, and it was good. I raised you in spirit, and it was good. Let me raise you up higher than the giants of despair, higher than the mountains of impossibility, because it is good. And what he was saying to us this morning is introducing my theme. What he's saying to us this morning is this, that as he views things all around us, that we see as giants of mountains of impossibility and that brings giants of despair into our hearts, he looks at the overall and says, it is good. He turns to his cabinet up there in heaven, figuratively speaking, and he says to them, guys, it's all going according to plan. There is nothing out of place. It is all happening as I want it to happen, as I will allow it to happen, but it's all working to one end. It is good. And he comes to you and me this morning and he shares that confidence with us this morning to see that all around us and everything that's happening in the world, on the stage of the whole world, it is good as far as God is concerned, because he sees the big picture. Paul talks about it in Ephesians chapter 1. He talks about God has put all things under his feet. The psalmist prophesied, God speaking, I have set my king in my holy hill of Zion. God has set him. There is one seated this morning on the right hand of the Father. His name is Jesus. We've been singing to him this morning. It's been the central theme of our worship. All the songs have been about Jesus. And he says, he's sovereign in it all. He reigns supreme in the heavens and on the earth. Nothing happens on earth without his permission. So and then he goes on, he's put all things under his feet, says the Apostle Paul. And he says, and he is head over all things to the church. You see, God's plan is that whatever happens on the stage of time outside of his church is all geared by God to promote his church and his eternal will through the church. And he wants you and me to see that. So he says, guys, whatever the failures are, whatever the disasters are, whatever is happening around you, the seeming negatives, I have a wonderful way of turning negatives into springboards for the future. I have a wonderful way of turning what looks like a negative and making it a springboard for the perfection of my will. It is good. I'm going away with that this morning in my heart, ringing in my ears for the next few days. It is all well. As far as God is concerned, have no fears. He's in complete control. It is good. As he said on the first day of creation, so he will say at the end of time. It's all been good. It is according to my plan. It's according to my purpose. And he's coming to our little gathering this morning. I needed to hear that. I don't know about you. I just needed to hear that word from the Lord that builds my confidence and points me to Jesus. And as I see him central in everything that is around us, in everything that is heaven and on earth and under the earth, he is its fulfillment. He is its cause. He's everything about it. As I fix my eyes on him, I hear those words. It's good. It's good. Amen. His plan is going to be perfectly successful. And might I say, I will say, I think because Brexit is on everybody's hearts at the moment, and you've got to. Why pulpits don't bring something, not party politics, but why pulpits do not bring something to the people of God concerning these things, I don't know. But all I know is this: whether we're in or out, God knows. And you know from reading scripture that globalization will happen. Because the globalization of the world is the cradle from which the Antichrist will rise. That's what's happening. And so whether we leave the European Union or not, actually, is not going to make a lot of difference. The globalization of the world is preparing for a man, the Antichrist, to arise and take supreme authority. You know what the scripture says about him. So can you see what God is saying to us? It's all happening. It's all going. And he's turning to his... I don't know who's in the boardroom with him. It could be a few archangels. It's certainly the Lord Jesus and the Holy Spirit. And he's saying, guys, look at the disaster down there. But hey, have no fears. It's all going according to plan. My plan is going to be successful. Hallelujah. Well, that's by way of introduction. So that's what the Lord said. My decree, I wrote the words down. My decree, he said, my decree is, it is good. Right from the beginning. He has decreed that it is good. So we take that this morning with great comfort and with great confidence. Whatever happens, the giants, he says, of despair, the mountains of impossibility, he looks down and says, okay, you can see them, so can I. And I want to impart into you a faith that comes only from me and you knowing me through Jesus. And I want you to know what I know, all's well. It is good. Amen. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. Amen. If you finish there, that would be enough. Amen. It is good. Amen. So thank you for being faithful in bringing back the word this morning. It was just good to hear that. And so I want to turn, it sort of introduces the theme, but I want to turn to the first chapter of Revelation. And just one phrase, actually, I'd like to share my thoughts on from this first chapter. Maybe we'll read from verse 7, just to save a little bit of time. 7 down to 11. So, Revelation chapter 1, and we're reading from verse 7 down to verse 1. I think we'll read from verse 4. It's only going to take 30 seconds. John, to the 7 churches which are in Asia, grace to you and peace from him who is, and who was, and who is to come, and from the 7 spirits who are before his throne, and from Jesus Christ, the faithful witness, the firstborn from the dead, and the ruler over the kings of the earth, to him who loved us and washed us from our sins in his own blood, and has made us kings and priests to his God and Father. To him be glory and dominion forever and ever. Amen. Behold, he is coming with clouds, and every eye will see him, and they also who pierced him, and all the tribes of the earth will mourn because of him. Even so, amen. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end, says the Lord, who is and who was and who is to come, the Almighty. I, John, both your brother and companion in tribulation, and in the kingdom and patience of Jesus Christ, was on the island that is called Patmos, for the word of God and the testimony of Jesus Christ. And I was in the Spirit on the Lord's day, and I heard behind me a loud voice as of a trumpet, saying, I am the Alpha and the Omega, the first and the last. What you see, write in a book, and send it to the 7 churches which are in Asia, to Ephesus, to Smyrna, and to Pergamos, Thyatira, Sardis, Philadelphia, and to Laodicea. May God add his blessing to that passage from his word. So John is an old man, the Apostle John, and because of, he says there in verse 9, he's on the island that is called Patmos for the word of God and for the testimony of Jesus Christ. So he's isolated from other people. But I like verse 10, I was on the Spirit on the Lord's day. Now, it's good to be in the Spirit every day, not just on a Sunday. But it was Sunday. And one can imagine that he's there feeling the loneliness of the moment, but remembering that there are, throughout Asia, throughout the 7 churches that he's talking about here, there are Christians meeting at the very same time. And he imagines that many of them may well be praying for him because he is isolated at this particular moment. And he's in the Spirit on the Lord's Day. He's doing him good. He's open to the Spirit like we have been this morning, and the Holy Spirit comes and he speaks to us. And he heard, says John, I heard behind me a loud voice. And it's Jesus who's speaking to him. Now in my Bible, what Jesus says is marked in red. And so verse 8 is in red, and so is verse 11. And he says the same thing twice in this particular chapter. But in Revelation, the phrase is found 4 times. And it's this. Jesus comes to him and immediately says, John, I am Alpha and Omega. I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, the one who was and is to come. And I've been looking at that. I don't know how many times in my long life that I have read those words. I have looked at them, preached them on occasions, but never seen what the Lord was really saying. And I want to share that with you briefly this morning. In that little phrase, I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. Now you know that Alpha and Omega are the first letter of the Greek alphabet and the last letter of the Greek alphabet. A to Z, we would call it. Alpha and Omega. Why did Jesus come to John at that moment and reveal to him, I am the alphabet, I am the Alpha and the Omega? Well, it simply means he was showing John that everything that God does begins with Jesus, and everything that God does will end with Jesus. I am the Alpha and the Omega. He is the beginning and he is the end. And as he puts it there, the God who was and is to come, it's the same picture. So in effect, he's saying to John, I was before all things began, and I will be after all things are finished. I am the eternal one. Now, our minds can't grasp that because we are creatures of time. And so we are used to the limitations of time. But his time is unlimited. He has no beginning and he has no ending. So he was before and he will be after. I am the Alpha and the Omega. The writer to the Hebrews puts it very simply, again, in the context of the first chapter of Hebrews. God, who at sundry times and in diverse manners spake unto our fathers by the prophets, has in these last days spoken unto us by his Son, listen, whom he has appointed, that's God, whom he has appointed heir of all things, through whom also he made the worlds. So here you have the same thought being brought out through the writer to the Hebrews. He is the Omega, he is the heir of all things, and through him all things were initially created. So you have the Alpha and the Omega there. Jesus was at the beginning, or was the beginning of creation, and everything will be summed up and culminate in Jesus. You know, just an interjection here. I've come to a conclusion. I think if the Church of Jesus Christ got back to becoming Christocentric, that it was Jesus, 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 a revival could take place. Because we get caught up with all, the Church of Jesus Christ gets caught up with all sorts of things. I don't know whether you agree with me or not, but going around the churches since I've retired has been one of the most interesting journeys that I've ever taken in my life. And not only apostolic churches, but all sorts of churches. And I am convinced when you start talking about Jesus, it does something in the hearts of God's people. And you won't have to tell them how to do this and how to do that. When they've got Jesus and a love for Jesus in there, they'll want to do it. They'll search this for themselves. They'll be open to the Spirit who takes the things of Jesus and reveals them to us. It's our desire for Jesus that counts. And I think in the heart of the Church of Jesus Christ today, there needs to be a returning to that first love for Jesus. It's all about him. If he's not central, You can do what you like, say what you like, sing what you like, preach what you like, do what you like. It's not going to make any difference. But the moment you center on Jesus, he does it by the power of his Spirit. And he reaches into the hearts of people. I'm convinced that that's the message that the Church of Jesus Christ needs today. But that's besides the point at the moment, although it's an important point to make. So he's the Alpha and the Omega. There's much we could say about that, but I just want to get into the thoughts that have come to me concerning that and share them with you this morning. The title, the name of Jesus, this name, Alpha and Omega, is the most amazing, ingenious thing in its revelation. I am Alpha and Omega. And I want to share 3 thoughts about that. I wondered if you've ever seen it like this before. I've rejoiced that he's the beginning and the end. I understand that he is who he is, the one who was and is to come. Do you remember when the religious leaders of the day were accusing him in the Gospels there, and they were saying, well, we are descendants of Abraham, who do you think you are? And do you remember how Jesus stunned them with his answer? He said to these religious leaders, your father Abraham rejoiced to see my day. And they saw it, he saw it and was glad. Now, can you imagine what that must have done to those religious leaders of the day? This young upstart, this guy, this carpenter's son, he's talking about the revered father of the faith, Abraham. And he's saying that Abraham saw him and was glad to see him. And so they reply, which is not unusual, you are not yet 50 years old. Have you seen Abraham? And here's the rub. This is what must have thrown them. I tell you the truth, says Jesus. Before Abraham was born, I am. There it is. The Alpha and the Omega, and he's revealing himself to blind eyes. That's his eternity, his timelessness. He was born into time, but he's not of time. So this phrase, I am the alphabet. He's come to John on the Isle of Patmos on a Sunday morning like this, and he comes to him and he says, I'm the alphabet. What did he mean? Well, have a think about this. The alphabet, as we know it, is inexhaustible. It's inexhaustible, the alphabet. Think about it. The alphabet is the most ingenious arrangement on the face of the planet. It can never be exhausted. It has been used as the basis of communication generation after generation, century after century. Think of all the words and the books that the great writers of history have written. So Charles Dickens, I've written a couple down here, Scott, Shakespeare. They all used, well, what did they use? Just the 26 letters of the alphabet. Thackeray, Wordsworth, Longfellow, Shakespeare, and took me back to school when I was thinking about this, Romeo and Juliet, Julius Caesar, King Lear, and many others. But he only used the 26 letters of the alphabet to write all that. Nothing else. I was brought up on Enid Blyton. Enid Blyton. Oh my, some lovely. I've still got my originals. We've got them in the garage. They've traipsed around the country with us all these years. Enid Blyton books. They could be all eaten away now by paperworms, but you never know. Anyway, our children were brought up on those books, my books, and even our grandchildren as well. They'd be having a go if they're still in one piece when we open the boxes. But even writing for a child's mind, as some of these writers wrote for big minds, used just the 26 letters of the alphabet. That's all. And the alphabet is far from exhaustion. You think of all the books that have been written. It's the libraries of the world. The New York Public Library is one of the biggest in the world. It has 50 55 million, no, it's more than that, it's 55 and then 6 noughts. What's that? Is that 55 million? 55, it has 55 million books on its shelves. The Bodleian Library is the oldest library in the world, from 1602 AD. It's the main research library of the University of Oxford. That has millions of books. Think of the British Museum, the Melbourne Library, millions of books. Did you know that the Vatican has a library that they've lost count of? Do you know how they count their books now? They say there are miles of books. That's how they count them. Miles of books. And as you look through all these magnificent libraries, every single book that has been written, whatever its size, whatever its weight, contains only these 26 letters of the alphabet. And what's more, the alphabet is contained not only in the books that have ever been written, but in the alphabet is the seed, or the germ, if you like, of all the books that are yet to be written. And when the very last writer lays down his pen or switches off his word processor, the alphabet will still be as fresh as ever, as fresh as it was before anybody used it. Inexhaustible. Inexhaustible. How inexhaustible is the alphabet? You can't drain it dry. You may well run out of ink, you can run out of paper, you can run out of, can't find a pen, your printer can break down, but never the letters of the alphabet. They are inexhaustible. You can run out of all those things. And so Jesus comes to John with this incredible revelation. And he takes up the alphabet and he holds it up for John to see, but for us all to see as a parable. And he says, really, for our understanding, I'm your alphabet. I am your inexhaustible one. What does he mean? Well, everything else and everyone else will become exhausted. Or it'll become obsolete. Or empty. Or useless, or irrelevant, or worn out, or old-fashioned, or even scrapped. But he will never be exhausted, just like the alphabet, because he is the self-existent, self-sufficient one. He is eternally relevant, so the alphabet has served generations of people. 26 letters, that's all. But it has served generations of people, speaking Old English, all kinds of languages, right up to the modern day. And he is eternally relevant. And he is the only infinite resource that we have to draw on, just like every writer. This infinite resource of the alphabet. Every person of every age may draw upon him. They will draw upon his grace. You and I are drawing upon his grace this morning, and through the countless ages of eternity, that grace will carry us through. It's inexhaustible. Amen. His forgiveness, inexhaustible. Confess your sin, and he is faithful and just to forgive you your sin and to cleanse you from all unrighteousness. His forgiveness, inexhaustible. So we keep coming to him. His wisdom, his knowledge, he's omniscient. He knows the end from the beginning. He never suddenly becomes aware of something. Neither does he have to be poked in the ribs to be reminded of anything. He knows the end from the beginning. It all happens as one to him. He doesn't have a future. He's not looking into the future, and neither is he looking over his shoulder to the past. It's all one to him. He's omniscient. He is omnipotent. He is all-powerful. They think they think they make the decisions in number 10 and in the Houses of Parliament. They think they make the decisions in the White House. They think they make these great decisions in the Kremlin and other great places where the thrones of kingdoms are. But listen, their plans will fall and fail every time. Some successful for a period, but his will never fail. He is inexhaustible in his omnipotence. And his presence, of course, well, it's everywhere. God is no more in one place than another. He is everywhere. The psalmist told us that, didn't he, in Psalm 139. If I go to the heights of heaven, you're there. If I go to the depths of hell, you're there. If I go to the east or to the west, I can't get rid of you, God. That's what he was saying. There's no way I can be away from you. You were with me. Now that's a great comfort. It strikes terror into the heart of the sinner. Because God is everywhere. You can't hide. Run, you can, but you can't hide from him. Jonah tried, and many others. But for the Christian, it's the greatest comfort of all. For John, it was on the island of Patmos, out of sight from other people, but never out of sight of the Lord. God's eye followed him everywhere, and into every valley that we go, into every desperate situation, into those times in our lives when we think that nobody else understands. He does. He's there. Like the psalmist said, when I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, even there, your hand guides me. And you overshadow me. Wonderful. So he's coming to John and he's saying, listen, I'm your alphabet. You can never exhaust him. John 1:16 says, of his fullness of all we receive. Of his fullness of all we receive. Colossians 1:19, God is pleased to have all his fullness dwell in him. And he takes it another step in the next chapter, and he says, in him Christ dwells all the fullness of the Godhead bodily. That's a sermon in and of itself. It's a series of sermons. The fullness of God dwelling, the infinite dwelling in the finite. It's an impossibility. But then everything about the gospel is impossible when you look at it. The whole thing is a miracle from beginning to end. And we are part of that miracle this morning. It's great. No wonder he says it's good. My plan's working. He says it can't do any other because I am omnipotent and sovereign. We used to sing, I don't know whether you might sing it here, his love has no limit, his grace has no measure, his power has no boundary known unto men. For out of his infinite riches in Jesus, the inexhaustible one, like the alphabet, I am your alphabet. Out of his infinite riches in Jesus, he giveth and giveth and giveth again. He is totally unaffected by all the demands made upon him. You can pray until you're blue in the face, you never get weary of it. And you can have a whole congregation praying the same way, and he won't be exhausted. He won't think, oh, give me a prayer. Let me have a cup of coffee, for goodness. He is inexhaustible. He doesn't need a cup of coffee. So, John, I am your inexhaustible one. And he's your inexhaustible one. Our inexhaustible one. You can't exhaust him. Wonderful. But not only is the alphabet inexhaustible, it is indispensable. Think about this. The alphabet is absolutely indispensable if you are to appreciate the treasures of wisdom and knowledge that are hidden in all these millions of books found in the libraries and the bookstores of the world. The only key to unlock all that is to know the alphabet yourself. If I don't know the alphabet, I can't read a book. But if I know the alphabet, I can read every one of them. I must know the alphabet. So the alphabet is indispensable. If you don't know the alphabet, all the treasures of literature will be locked away from you forever. So all those stirring stories of romance that have roused your passions and you've thrown your arms around your loved one and said, oh, hallelujah, praise the Lord. No amen from the men. Oh, guys. And the women, they're probably thinking, oh, God save us, but there you go. But you think of all the records of history that have taught us about the past. Sometimes we don't learn from the past. In fact, a lot of times we don't learn from the past. But we certainly have records that we can read about the past. The developing philosophies that make us think. The various interests of travel that we have read about, and we get this yearning, oh, I'd love to go to, wherever it is, because you've read something about it. They fill you with like geographical hunger. You want to go traveling. Think of the discoveries of science that have helped us understand creation a little more. Think of the revelation of theology as we've studied the Bible. But it would all be hidden to us if we didn't know the alphabet. When I was in school, about 120 years ago, as a boy, as a young child, I remember the first thing every morning after the register, around the wall was the times tables. Do you remember? 1, 2 is 2, 2, 2 is 4, 3, 2 is and you would go right through to the 12 times table. I don't know if any of you are old enough to remember that. And the other thing was, we used to learn the alphabet. A for apple, B for bat, K for whatever it was. I can't remember. They taught us parrot fashion. Best way to learn, actually. It's our generation that can actually add up a list of numbers without a calculator. Did you know that? Youngsters today can't do that. They need a calculator. But because we knew our times table, if somebody says, what's 8 eighths? Straight away. What's 8 eighths? Do you know what 8 eighths are? 64. Yeah, there we go. Keep you awake here. Come on, David. What are 7 nines? You see, he's that generation. He needs a calculator. He's doing that. 63. And I won't ask any more, so I won't embarrass you. And I don't like to embarrass you. But to know the alphabet, we were taught it in Sunday school. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Jesus died for you and me. H, I, J, K, L, M, N. Gave his life for sinful men. Amen. Remember? O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, G. Believe God's word is true. U, V, W. God has promised you X, Y, Z. A home ahead. So we were taught it in Sunday school. And I'm so grateful that I know the alphabet, because it helps me to then plunge into these vistas of knowledge, with the treasures of wisdom and knowledge that is all around me. But you spiritualize that, and that's what Jesus was saying to John. I'm not only your inexhaustible one, I am indispensable to your life. That's what he's saying. He's the indispensable one. Because Jesus is to life what the alphabet is to literature. You can't make any sense of literature without knowing the alphabet. And you can't make any sense of life without knowing the author of life himself. What the alphabet is to both writer and reader, so Christ is to everything that he has created. Without him, life remains a mystery. It is he who unlocks the meaning of life, and it is only in him that life gets its meaning. We're hearing on the news these days that depression, it's a word that covers an awful lot of things, but depression and mental health, if you like, mental health is at an all-time low for people, particularly young people. They don't know why and that's the reason why. They don't know why they're here. They don't know where they've come from. They don't know where they're going. They don't know what life's all about, and they never will until they know the alphabet. Can you see that? Until they find the source of their satisfaction in Jesus, they will not find it anywhere else. But the moment you know Jesus, it seems that the jigsaw of life suddenly falls into place. Oh, there are funny shapes all around, but somehow you see the form that God has created us for and from. And that is the picture that Jesus is showing John. He says, the alphabet, I'm the one who is indispensable to your life, just like the alphabet is to all that has been written. I remember probably in my young to mid-teens, I suddenly become aware, as most of us have, of the significance of things and the significance of life. Why am I here asking those questions? And the security of who I am. But I found it in Christ. I found it in what I was learning from other Christians who were pointing me to the Word. I discovered the Jesus who is indispensable to my life. And most of us, well, I think probably all of us would say this morning, without Jesus, life would not make any sense. It would be a total mystery. Why are we here? Why do what we're doing? Why should we? What's it all about? Where are we heading? Where did we come from? There's no answer. It's a mystery. Until the alphabet is in its right place. You know the alphabet, the one who is the alphabet. And there's much we could say about that this morning, but I'm sure you're following my train of thought. He's not only the inexhaustible one, John, I'm your inexhaustible one, but I'm indispensable to you, he says. Indispensable. To your past, to your present, to your future. I am what the alphabet is to literature. My past makes no sense if it wasn't for Jesus. Thank God my past in the ungodliness of it has been forgiven. My past is now secure in him. My future is secure in him, although it's not yet come. I have every confidence, without a shadow of doubt, that my future is secure because I'm in Jesus. And my present, with all the vicissitudes of life blowing and raging around me, I have eternal security built into the gospel in my soul. He's indispensable to my life. And when this life ceases, I know what's going to happen. We're going to step from this room into that room. And we'll have a cup of tea in there as well after the meeting, aren't we? Not a bad idea. I thought you might have been roast beef and Yorkshire pud, but you'll get there. You'll get there. That's the next step. But you understand what I'm saying? These are wonderful things. I feel excited. The final one. Have I got time? A couple more minutes?
Yes.
Couple more minutes?
Yes.
The final one. So John, here he is, isolated in the Isle of Patmos, and he's in the Spirit on the Lord's day, and the Lord comes to him and says, John, it's all good. It is good. Because I am your alphabet. I am the Alpha and the Omega. I am your inexhaustible one. I am your indispensable one. But John, just think about this. I'm your most adaptable one. I can adapt to every situation because that's what the alphabet does. It is the most adaptable creation of formation of any kind in the whole of life. There is nothing in the universe so adaptable as the alphabet. It has infinite versatility and unlimited flexibility. Anyone can sit down and take those 26 letters and write everything that's in their mind or in their heart. And those 26 letters will adapt themselves to your emotions, to your peculiarities, to your idiosyncrasies, your thoughts, your dreams, your opinions, your theories, your philosophies. Those 26 letters will adapt themselves to me absolutely perfectly. So the poet will take those 26 letters and create from them a song of prose or rhyme that may be sung for centuries. And that took me back to school, and I thought about I wandered lonely as a cloud of anyway, that one I can't remember it now, it's so a long time ago, but I do remember learning it all off by heart hundreds of centuries ago, and being very impressed by it and love poetry. So the poet can take those 26 letters and he'll weave together some form of prose that will be remembered for centuries. The judge in his courtroom, and he used to wear a wig and his gowns, he will take those same 26 letters of the alphabet and he will form them into a sentence that may release a man to his freedom or condemn the poor wretch to his cell to pay the ultimate penalty for his crime. But it's the same 26 letters. They adapt themselves to any situation. The preacher will take those 26 letters and bring out of their adaptability a message of hope for the hopeless, or a message of conviction to the sinner, or a challenge to Christian character. He will use those 26 letters, that's all, to lead them in a prayer perhaps, or in thanksgiving and praise, and he'll sing. What are we singing? 26 letters of the alphabet, that's all we're singing. The very same, they adapt themselves to every situation. The lover will take those 26 letters of the alphabet and he'll adapt them in a way, or she, that will express the heart in endearing terms as he seeks to woo the love of his life. Or I've got a little pile of love letters still in my bottom drawer of the wardrobe, a little elastic band that I received from certain people in the congregation here all these years. Same 26 letters. They adapt themselves to anything. The politician. God help us. The politician will take those 26 letters and adapt them to formulate national policy that may affect the course of history for millions of people. Great speeches have been made. I was looking through a month or two back, the great speeches of Winston Churchill. And what a man, what an orator, who could raise the spirit of a nation by a simple speech in time of war and in time of great darkness and poverty. And don't we need that now? You know, the nation needs rallying because, well, it's sagging into despair. And it needs that, but, you know, we don't seem to have the same caliber of people around these days as we did before. Nevertheless, the politician will use those very same letters. He'll either weave a pack of lies, most of them do, or he'll maybe sort of nudge towards truth and tell you things as they ought to be. You don't mind me saying that, you. Unfortunately, that's the way it turns out. That's the way it pans out. But you understand how adaptable the alphabet really is. The mother will take, and this is the last one, the mother will take those 26 letters of the alphabet, that's all, and she'll adapt them with a soft caress of tenderness to gratify the child, or with a clip of correction to apply some discipline. It's the same 26 letters. They are totally adaptable. They adapt themselves to the requirements of each one. There is nothing in the world that is so fluid, so flexible, so versatile, so adjustable as the alphabet. And Jesus takes the alphabet and he comes to John, and therefore to us this morning, and he says, I'm your alphabet. I am adaptable to you in your situation. Now, what did he mean? Well, he means simply this. Because of who he is, he can adapt himself to exactly to every requirement of both God and man. Because he is fully God, he adapts himself to the divine nature, because that's who he is. But because he is fully man, and we'll be celebrating that in a couple of weeks' time, he can adapt himself totally and utterly to you and to me. That's why Paul, writing to Timothy to encourage him, says, Timothy, you preach this. There is one God and one mediator between God and man. And he's put it like that to reveal this glorious truth about Jesus, that he is totally adaptable, whether in heaven or on earth. He is adaptable to God and to man. He has taken the cause of God, and he has taken the cause of every human being, and out of the fullness of who he is and his grace, and he has brought them together. Wonderful. Hope you're not getting bored. Oh, I'm not bored when I talk about these things. I just love him. And I've loved the way that the worship this morning has centered on him, because he's everything. He is the alphabet, the inexhaustible one, the indispensable one, the adaptable one. And with this thought I finished. He is that adaptable that the writer to the Hebrews puts it like this. We do not have, it's a double negative, we do not have a high priest who cannot sympathize with our weaknesses. In other words, we do have a high priest who can sympathize and does sympathize with our weaknesses. But you see, my weakness is different to your weakness. Oh, there might be some overlaps, but we all have weaknesses. But what the writer of the Hebrews is saying is, this adaptable one is able to adapt to you in your need. He's able to adapt to me in my need. And because he is fully God, he is able to adapt to all God's requirements. We're all women side, you can't lose. That's what he's saying. So he says, he was in all points tempted like as we are, yet without sin. Let us therefore come boldly to the throne of grace, that we may obtain mercy and find grace to help in the time of need. I tell you, dear brothers and sisters, there's no one like him. There is no one like him. You cannot compare him to anyone or anything. He is the Alpha and the Omega to you and to me, the inexhaustible one. Keep coming to him. Keep on drawing from this inexhaustible supply of His grace. We've heard it this morning. His love for us is flowing like a river, incessant. From above, incessant. It's not flowing like a tide. It doesn't go back and then come again. It's constantly on the flow, constantly overflowing and overwhelming. Wonderful, inexhaustible. And there's still as much to come as there has been in the past.
Amen.
That's the inexhaustible nature. I'm the Alpha and the Omega. 26 letters, that's all. I am indispensable to you and to your life. Because without knowing the alphabet, all this is hidden from us. But because we know the alphabet, it's all there for us to see and enjoy and live in. And the wealth that is ours through knowing Him as He is indispensable. And I'm completely adaptable. I understand you as you are. You're different to everybody else. And you think, well, the Lord, if He really knew what I was like, oh boy. If all these people here knew what I was really like, they'd never speak to me again. And the devil has a playground there, doesn't he? Because he makes us feel that we're so unworthy. He makes us feel that even God has given up on us and is about to give up on us. Oh, no. I am your alphabet. The alphabet never gives up. Those 26 letters are available for everybody. And Jesus is available to us in all those ways. May God help us in these days. No wonder the Lord said to us this morning, it's good.
Hallelujah.
It's good. That was His name.
Amen.
It's good.
Amen.
Don't worry about things. I'm your inexhaustible one. I'm your indispensable one. I'm your adaptable one.
Wonderful.
I can adapt to it all. Wonderful. So it's good. We're taking that with us this morning into the week that lies ahead. It's all good.
Yes.
He says it.
Amen.
And that's enough for me.
Amen.
Lord, thank you for your word. I
Thank you.
pray that you will release it in our hearts.